Yeah, somewhere.
Do you guys have paper copies of all that stuff that was in your packet?
Yes, sir.
I have mine,
All right, good.
and I think they had more. Why you don't have one?
I was just wanting to make sure you had them.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. We might as well get started and see what's going on here. It's after 5:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. Okay, number 2, we need to discuss possibly approve minutes of May 9th, 2022 special meeting. Call for a motion.
Motion.
Second, discussion.
I viewed them, didn't see any problems.
Okay, call for a vote?
Shropshire,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Okay. Discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding a change in time limitations for mobile food service in section 3-2A-7 of ordinance number 2016-3. Call for a motion.
Motion.
Second, discussion. Okay.
I can tell you, I reviewed that whole code section that was written, 2016, I guess is when we did that.
Right?
I mean, everything in that code looks good with the exception of this one provision, this 3-2A-7.
Okay.
Is that regarding the time limits?
Yeah,
I wrote up something as a suggestion to maybe bypass that. I don't know if it'll work or not. Just a template, just a basis of maybe distinguishing between regular food trucks and permanent ones. And if they're permanently hooked up, not an extension cord, if you would like to look at
Okay,
something.
yeah.
And that way, rather than redoing the whole code, maybe just have that inserted in there. I've
Yeah.
spoke with both Mr. Clay and the lady that is trying to get this thing going, that's brought this to our attention to see what's going on. And it's, the only thing that I see that may be a concern is if she's using propane, which she is, what size the tank is and what size is allowable for something like that. Now, I know if we don't want a full-size tank.
Okay, what they did also was they took the wheels off of it to make it.
Still got wheels on it today.
Okay, well, they're supposedly gonna make it immobile where we're supposed to be,
yeah.
not.
I mean, that instance is the one that kind of brought it to our attention, but we can't tailor something just around what they're doing.
Right, right.
I questioned why have this time limitation?
Well, from what I've gathered, the reason they did this in the first place was not to interrupt with other restaurants in the city. That was why they put a time limit on it back when. They,
But why would we do that? I mean,
They-
restaurants compete with each
I
other.
guess some of the other restaurants may have been complaining that they were taking business from them or something at that time. I don't know exactly what that was, but this is something I've heard through the grapevine that was the reason they did it. They didn't want what they were calling a fly-by-night or a mobile food truck to come in and set up a permanent residence somewhere and take business away from the restaurants downtown. I don't know that's I don't see where that would be unfair if they did. That just gives somewhere else to eat.
I mean, is it a concern? As I was studying it,
I
we can't really protect.
I
That's
don't
not our
see that it
job, to
is.
limit competition.
100% agree with what you're saying. I would like to have a distinction between a permanent and a temporary, because if somebody's gonna be permanent, I want them to do the extra couple of steps. That way we can go and inspect that they've got the power hooked up and it's not shady, because if you're plugging in electrical cords and all this kind of stuff and you leave it, it could be a fire hazard, et cetera. And that's why, personally, I would rather us have a distinguishing thing between a permanent and a temporary. That way, we can make sure that it's hardwired.
What makes it permanent, though?
Well,
Time period
MUB.
Makes it permanent.
MUB.
yeah,
What time period?
if they're hooked up to the city grid and they're paying the charges,
I get that, but when are you gonna make them do that?
That would,
If they're
that
there
would,
for 6 months or more, or if they're there for a year?
Well, if they're wanting to set up permanent, they need to set up permanent. If they're just wanting to, now, I agree with you, the moving it every 12 hours,
Why do that?
I agree that
I
that's.
don't understand that either, but if they don't have water, unless what they're carrying on board the trailer, they running off of propane, that's one thing. They're running off a generator, that's another thing. And then, they don't have anywhere to get rid of sewage. We do have a clause in here that says that they have to have trash container, and they have to be able to pick up around their area and clean up all the trash or any debris that was left after their business, shuts down. I kind of think if they were, going to set up for, we have to figure out some kind of either take the time out completely, or if it is going to be in a permanent situation, then it has to be,
Well, if it goes beyond that 90-day period that's already in there, then it might be considered permanent. Or something. I agree, though, the moving it every 12 hours.
that's
is
a little
kinda-
bit much.
I would be okay with having that portion stricken, personally. The 90 days for a temporary, I think it's a good idea, simply because if they're gonna set up permanent, we need to know it.
Does the health department have a crew that would go around and check these?
She has that.
They have a whole
department.
set of guidelines that they have to follow, and we've incorporated that in our ordinance, that they have to be in compliance with all the.
But do they actually send somebody out to look at it that we
Yeah,
know of?
she said that they had one come out and inspect
Okay.
hers.
They have to get a permit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think those permanent structures need to have that health certificate on file, personally, that's
I
what
think they have to display it, won't they?
Yeah, but a temporary one is more gonna be through the county or the state, whereas if it's a permanent thing in the city limits, then the city needs to know if it's a permanent thing. That's just my opinion. And that's why I think if we have a permanent food truck and what it is versus a temporary, and like I said, this is just my ideas.
Well, I'm believing that all of your inspections have to come from the county health department anyway, so that'd be a part of the county. I don't think we have a city department that would do that. I
You
don't
know, I'm
think.
just thinking like, let's say you've got a vacant lot, and somebody wants to put a food truck on it, and they just want to kind of keep it there.
Uh-huh.
Why can't they get that year-long permit, have it there? If they have to go somewhere to dump their sewage, and they go dump their sewage, they go
Right.
dump, I mean, it's like an RV or something.
Yeah,
Where are we overstepping our bounds is what I'm kind of looking at.
I don't see that we are, honestly. I don't see that we actually have to put a time limit. Again, what I was told that, there were some restaurants that were complaining that they didn't have the same,
Overhead.
well,
And it's
yeah,
unfair competition.
unfair
That's a
competition. but-
totally different market.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean,
Because they're not
Food truck.
eating inside either. They're-
Food truck, you walk up and get it and leave.
You leave, yeah.
At a
Or
restaurant. I
Put
mean,
a picnic table out there if they want to do that, in the right kind of weather.
I mean, we can't really shelter a business from competition.
No.
That's
No,
not the
that
right
wouldn't be
thing.
legal.
But my biggest thing is if it's hooked to the sewer and the water and the electric, that's my three biggest things. It could be permanent. The idea of them, are they gonna take the sewage back and forth? And if they don't take it back and forth on a regular basis, then that becomes a health issue in and of itself with the sewer portion of it.
But they really don't have any sewage, because they don't have any restrooms. or-
Well, they have gray water and they got food, if they're throwing food down, if they have a disposal.
But the Department of Health regulations govern all
Take care of that part.
But I'm either way on that one, but I think if it's gonna be permanent, I would like to see it hooked to the utilities because it's just safer.
Okay, but now here's where I get into, when is it permanent, and when is it not?
If we go with what's in there,
Is a year permanent? I think a year's temporary.
Yeah, what it would be.
I mean, can't you argue that pretty easily?
Well, what if we made it to where you had to have a yearly, permit?
I mean, frankly, I think that's it. We just require a yearly permit. All of the other regulations require them to comply with DEQ regs, and DEQ and Health Department. And what do we care if somebody wants to set up a food truck on a vacant lot somewhere and
Long as it,
comply with all the regulations?
as long as it's okay with the owner, of course, you have to have that and everything.
Well-
But that's already in here, that was written in here.
It's already there.
Let me turn
Are
this-
we gonna require them to hook up to the utilities or not?
Well, I think they'd have trouble hooking up to the utilities because I don't think MUB would allow them to hook up.
Well, this one is, but I don't know if all of them would be.
How are they hooked up? Did they tap into water?
I think that little
Well,
building over there
They're
beside
pulling
them.
off of the building.
Mhm.
Well, they're just pulling off the building.
Yeah, so it's going through a meter. But the thing is, electric, a pole can be set anywhere, and they can have a panel. And, if you're gonna be running gas generators all the time, I would prefer not having that.
That's where you're going with that. You don't want somebody sitting out there for.
Yeah, because
years
you're
with
leaving a gas
generators
generator
running.
out there overnight, and if you're gonna leave it overnight, it needs to be hooked up to utilities, otherwise they're gonna start messing with your generator, they could open it up, catch it on fire,
There's also,
just vandalism. So I think if they're not gonna move it every night, they need to be hooked up permanent. That way, you're not having those risks. That's just my opinion on it.
there's also a deal in here that says that they can't be in a residential zoned,
Yeah, they can't be any residential area.
Yeah,
yeah, so the running a generator and everything, I don't know if that's gonna be a,
That's true, because you're not
Nuisance.
in residential areas.
right. I,
I mean, frankly, sometimes we try to over-regulate things, we try to overthink things.
I'm gonna use a term here that we're gonna come up to later. We're trying to turn Pryor into a HOA sometimes, and we really don't need to do that.
I would recommend that we just repeal 3-2A-7 and leave the rest of it in there. And if somebody wants to buy a year-long permit, I mean, they're gonna have to permit each year.
Right.
It's there,
Right.
and they're gonna have the inspections and so forth.
And the rest of it was covered because you have to have, of course, permission from whoever owns the land. And you have to have a permit, and you have to have a health department permit also. Everything's there. And there is a daily, a special event and a yearly permit already in there. That's in 3-2A-3E. So that's already taken care of. That's already there, so.
If it creates problems, if we do this, and then we start encountering problems, we can always revisit it
Yes, we can.
and say, you know what, we need to regulate that a little bit.
We'll try that one more time, right? So you think probably the legal way around it, without having any backup or anything on it, would probably be just to rescind 3-2A-7 and take the time limits out of it. And the time limits that they would be there would be by the permit that they purchased.
I believe that's the thing to do right now.
Okay, all right. So, discussion has been made. What are you thinking about that?
I think it's a viable way of doing it.
Mhm.
I'm not really thinking in my mind where it would be a big flag, because as you said, if they're gonna do a 1 day, that's the permit they get. So,
And they do have a special event for like the third Thursday or whatever they have downtown and all that.
Special event.
so,
And also, they have one for the, what was it, Traders Day and things like that. If they want to, they can buy a special event permit for that
Right.
here. So that's all taken care of. And if they want to buy a yearly permit, then they wouldn't have to pull out every 24 hours. I know how hard it is to set a trailer up. I wouldn't want to do
if we
that.
repeal this, though, they won't have to pull out.
Right.
But I know we offer the permit for a day and for an event. Do we also have an annual already?
Yeah, it's there. I'll show you. It's, here you go, right here. It's be easier just to show you. 1-day special event and a 1-year permit.
That's 3-23. The question though, now, we know what a 1-day permit is and a special event. Is this 1-year permit, is it valid for anywhere or just for one location?
No, you could locate different spots during that year.
Okay.
It's just that you have a permit to operate in the city limits for a year, not necessarily any location. And another thing too, I would, if I was doing it, I was putting one in there, I would try to get city utilities. That would just be something I would do. But just because it would be a lot easier to get rid of your gray water, it'd be easier than having to haul water to your trailer every time you set up to cook. And I don't know exactly how many gallons of water that they would use in a day, but depending on what they're cooking, it may be more than we'd think. Then you have to get rid of the same amount of water and stuff. So
Then again, that's up to the operator. If
It
you
is.
hire overhead,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it would be. But I don't really have many issues with that. I think that would.
I'm not having any red flags on removing or recommending that removal, so, I would
so-
like to amend my motion that we recommend the removal of,
Wherever it's at, 3-2.
2A-7.
yeah, that entire section.
Okay.
I will make that amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for a vote?
okay. Gantier?
Yes,
Shropshire?
Yes. Okay. Discuss, possibly recommend city attorney to draft an ordinance regarding operation of golf carts and all-terrain vehicles on city streets. Do I have a motion?
motion.
Second, discussion.
We had a change in state law this past year that legalized the use of UTVs if they're properly outfitted and tagged on roads. They can't be on federal highways, but they can be on all state roads
And city streets.
and city streets.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think we just need to follow the state law on
Do you-
on UTVs.
Did you have a copy of that?
No, I didn't bring it with me, but it was passed this past year.
Okay.
The reason I know about it's because I'm city attorney for Jay, and they have that Mid-America Outdoors up there, which is a huge
Right.
UTV, ATV thing.
Mhm.
And so we had to address it up there.
So the permits that would be required would be, you would have to have a slow-moving vehicle sign that would be visible from the rear. And I think we talked about having visible stop and turn signals also, didn't we?
We did.
Okay. So other than, and it also dusted on by the NOAA time scale, is I think is the way that went. So you would, you're not able to drive them at night in town?
Yeah. I mean, the concerns that the chief raised were, you know, there's not any seat belts, or even if there are seat belts, how safe are you if you're in a collision with a car, driving a
Right,
golf cart?
you're not going to be.
And, you know, you got kids riding in them and
Well,
different things like that.
It said that you had to have, now I know there's kids, passengers and stuff, but it said that you had to have an operator's license to be able to drive on the city streets. So that being said, let's see where I can find that out.
That's the first one under A, that they have to have the license.
Yeah, valid driver's license.
And letter number 6, they have to have liability insurance.
Right.
But who are the police gonna be? I mean,
We're running into the same thing here as you would with all of our bicycle trails. I mean, your bicycle trails are marked, you've got everything ready for bicycles, so there's bicycles out in the street now. And I know it's against the law and the rules to ride a bicycle on the sidewalks, but still, we still have the same issue of a car running over a bicycle too. And having ridden a bike, most bikes don't come up to each block and see a stop sign and stop and look both ways. They look both ways and keep rolling and roll through it and go. It's not as much fun to stop and put a leg down and start all over again every block. So that's probably more, that probably happens more often than you would if you had a golf cart, I would imagine.
I mean, the problem I have in trying to address something like this is that bicycles, I mean, those are legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But bicycles have rules to go by, and they ride on the side of the road, and they ride on the sidewalks and different things like that. But when you start putting golf carts on the streets, I mean, a golf cart, you're gonna drive like you're a car. You're gonna be in the driving lane, you're gonna be going everywhere a motorized vehicle goes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I understand the concerns that the chief was talking about. You know, there is such a thing as a street legal vehicle.
There are.
The UTVs that require flashers and seat belts and all of those things.
Also, isn't there a wheel diameter limit too? I mean, you have to go above a 12 or 14 inch tire,
Yeah,
I think.
there's a lot of regulations on it, but, you know, you tag them now. The UTV can be tagged street legal at the tag agency. And we just don't have anything like that for golf carts if we put golf carts on the road.
And if they're not tagged, that means we don't know if they meet the requirements.
We don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not in favor of it because I think there's too much liability and too many safety issues that we're not able to address personally.
Would the city be liable for that? I don't think they would be. That's the operator that's liable for it.
It'd be the operator, but,
Mhm.
you know, as soon as we, you know, I don't like to over-regulate, right? But I don't know that this is over-regulation when it's a safety concern for the public.
Do we have I don't know the regulation on what vehicles are street legal and what it takes to be street legal.
There's a definition in the statutes.
There
I
isn't,
do know
I
you have to
don't,
have headlights, you have to have signals, brake lights. I mean, I know you have to have those certain things.
right, and there was a deal, because this happened in Claremore. There was a guy that was handicapped, and he was driving his golf cart around town, and they picked him up because, and the only thing they gave out, if I remember right, was he didn't have a large enough wheel and tire assembly on there to meet requirements to be on the road. And I don't know what that size was.
I mean, we could come up with a category for golf carts that had all the specifications that it had to be, you know, that it had to meet in order to operate on the streets. We could do that.
What
Headlights,
initiated
turning
this?
signals, I don't know.
I mean, is there somebody that
Yeah,
has medical
There was
problems?
there was an older couple that called in and asked if they could ride their golf cart around town. And
Is there some electric or gas?
I'm not sure. I don't know that would make any difference, but
Well, the speed of it, I think, is a,
the thing is they wanted to move around town on a golf cart instead of getting their car out and everything, for whatever reason, I don't know. But I think they said that his wife was having trouble in and out of a car, and a golf cart was easier for her to get in and out of, I believe is the way it went. But do you remember, Darla?
I don't remember.
They were talking to Cheryl.
Yeah, I'm sure she
I
could.
mean, we could restrict them too. We could restrict them to residential neighborhoods and not allow them on
In this, it
main
says,
streets or
it
highways.
said you can't get on a highway or a major road except just for crossing at like a red light or
so
something
they
like
couldn't get
that.
on 69.
No.
Could not get on 20.
No, it couldn't go downtown either. I
They
mean, they
could
couldn't cross Main
over.
Street,
I
they
don't
could
know,
cross over.
Elliott's county, isn't it?
Well,
Elliott would
it's
be
a
all
city
right,
street,
but Main Street
no,
would be out.
because that's Highway 20. You can't get on Main Street, you can't get on 69. You can only get on residential streets and then just cross state highways, which would be Main Street, Highway 20 and 69 at crossing areas is the way that read.
So they could theoretically go to the banks, they could go to Homeland.
Well, it says here, no operation shall occur or be permitted upon the streets and highways of the state of Oklahoma except golf carts when making a perpendicular crossing of a state highway located within the boundaries of your town. So no running down Main Street with a golf cart, no parking on Main Street with a golf cart. That would all have to be a back road. The only thing I could see that they could do is they wouldn't be utilizing downtown, or they wouldn't be utilizing any of the businesses on 69 unless they went the back way to get to
You
them.
could
Back
get
alley.
downtown.
Huh?
I mean, you could get downtown, you just couldn't drive Main Street.
Unless, just to cross it.
You'd have to do little back alleys.
Well, you can drive the streets in
The
town,
city
like
streets.
Adair, Van, or any of those, you can cross it, but I guess you'd have to park on the side streets there. You just couldn't park on Main Highway 28 part of it. But I'd be interested in know what the legal description of a vehicle that's street legal would be.
Street legal.
Yeah. Do you think maybe we ought to table this until we can get the definition of what
I make a
street legal?
motion.
Those things are always defined with respect to the category of the vehicle, like a street legal motorcycle or a street legal UTV. It's gonna have special things for that class of vehicle.
Right.
So we could do that. I mean, we could kind of relate it maybe to a UTV type thing.
Okay. I don't, like I say, I don't know what happened in Claremore other than they wouldn't let the gentleman use his golf cart because of the size of the tire and wheel. So I don't know how he did it, but he came up with some tires and wheels that met the criteria, and he had the stop lights put on it and the slow moving vehicle sign and the turn signals put on it, and they said, you're good to go.
Has Shoto had any trouble? Or have we
I
contacted?
have no idea.
I don't think there's too many people did it anyway. There was probably a select few that did it and showed us what we heard.
I'd like to amend my motion that we table this
Okay.
until we establish what a street legal and what vehicles would be authorized.
And I'll second that motion. Call for a vote,
1 second.
okay?
Okay, Shropshire,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Okay. The next one is discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding ordinance limiting usage and parking of commercial vehicles, recreational vehicles, trailers, and mobile homes within the city limits of Pryor Creek. I entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second, discussion.
Do you guys have the ordinance that we started working with in your packet?
Yeah.
That one that we kind of proposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I look like we.
Here's the current code. Is that what they're talking about?
I went through and remember when I printed off all the codes that related to it? I mean, that's this again, that's the same thing. Remember the black, that is not in code, that was just something I suggested we could do. So the black is not part, the bold. This is just some of our codes that we have. Like I said, this was just an idea I had the last meeting. This is not in there, everything else is. It's just codes from our code book, in case we want to refer to something.
Okay. What we've got as the biggest problem that I've had anybody to say anything about was we were wanting to make sure that the trailers were all backed into the yard, and the front of the trailer would not be closer to the curb than the front of their house or whatever. That was one of the things we were talking about. There's been some conversation about that might be a little bit rough, because even where you live, you're way off the road back there, your house, right?
Yeah.
So that might be a little more than what we need to do. And again, we're not wanting to try to turn Pryor into a,
Are we trying to
HOA?
put this back in?
no, that was what we started with.
That was taken out.
Well, we haven't taken anything out yet. We
No,
haven't.
this was taken out way back when. This is old.
This is
yeah.
the one that's
the old
in,
one.
in,
But this isn't there now.
that's what's now.
They said that's in the old code book that was.
Are you
That
talking
was
about
what was
10
deleted.
2 is that what you're
I'm
looking
talking
at?
about this one, that they put a note on there, but this is in the old code book that is no longer.
That
in
got deleted when they did the, when they did
Oh,
the
yeah, it's
UDO,
gone.
and
Yeah, so
it
that-
got left out.
Okay, well, see, the
Last
deal was that
page.
this is what Cheryl sent me and said, this is what we're going by, so okay.
That old code?
Well,
What's
we
the
can't-
code?
Supposedly,
It's
but
not-
then we wrote this new one here that was just a kind of a brief of different things going on and everything. But I would like to ask you guys what you think about, can we put a minimum number of feet from the curb that would allow, it was for a safety thing more than anything else. They were talking about kids playing out beside a travel trailer or something that blocks your view and kick a ball and the travel trailer be right down to the sidewalk or the curb and the ball to run out in front of a car and a kid get ran
Or if you
over.
pull out of a driveway and you can't
You
see.
can't see what's behind you.
Sightlines, yeah.
So I was wondering if we might come up with a minimum distance from the curb that a trailer could be parked beside your home or whatever. And I was thinking at about probably, I think 15 feet would give us a really, really good
I was
distance to
thinking
be able
15
to
to
see.
20 feet.
And I even brought a tape measure here so we can actually measure 15 feet back there and see how much room you'd have to see if you're backing out of your driveway or whatever.
Well, if you're backing out of your driveway, you're gonna need probably 20 feet. If you're pulling forward, you're gonna probably need.
I don't know
15.
how many houses in Pryor are further back from the curb than, 20 feet maybe. It may be a little further than that, but that's a long ways. You get to thinking
So
about it.
the typical setback is like 25 feet.
I think that's what they,
Front lot line.
that's what they were trying to shoot for. But then they didn't know where it was gonna, they said from the pin, from the survey pin, and nobody knew where the survey pin was. And it used to be a rule a long time ago that you measured from the center of the road back that direction. But that, I don't know if that's still in effect here or not.
Typically, it's from the front lot line. So your property line at the front of your property, 25 feet back, and that.
Would that be the curb?
Yeah, it's gonna be just past the curb, just a bit,
Okay.
typically.
But if you pull it from the curb,
Yeah.
15 feet is close to here to that wall.
Well, we're just gonna look it up, because like I say, we've got a tape measure here, and I'll need to hold it up, and we'll go 15 feet and see what we think about 15 feet.
On the second chair, by the way.
It's gonna be a lot longer than we think,
You're probably getting close right about there.
right there. Now, that's 15 feet back from the curb. You should be able to see everything you need to see in that distance, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna do that, I'd say 15 feet, but I would also have some language in there that it can't, even at 15 feet, it can't obstruct
Okay.
view. I mean, if you got a street that kind of curves or
Yeah.
something like that, well, then
Okay.
it might need to be further back. But do we really even need that if we have that language in there that you can't obstruct the view?
We already have
We
that.
already have it in there.
Did you see the ones I mean, it's referenced, let's see, obstructions, 7-1-2B, improper use is unlawful for any person to use or obstruct the sidewalks of the city in any manner, so as to interfere unduly with pedestrian traffic thereon, or to use or obstruct the free use of streets, alleys, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you that if you're blocking people from being able to see how to get onto the road, they are violating that. So, I mean, I think that part is covered. If you look under nuisance declares 4-6-2A, it talks about a nuisance impede traffic in the streets. that could be an issue.
Yeah, that's if they're tore down.
And it also deals with the parking and storage of trucks and heavy equipment. We already have a section on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do believe we need the part where it says a camping trailer or travel trailer motorhome shall not be occupied either temporarily or permanently while it's parked or stored in an area within the incorporated limits except in a mobile home park authorized under ordinance of the city or by special permit granted by the city not to exceed 7 days in a 30-day period. And then the mayor of his designee may waive such a restriction during a declared state of emergency. Trailers are prohibited from blocking or obstructing public roads, sidewalks, driveways, right-of-ways, utility services, or alleyways.
What are you reading from right now?
That's the one that's in here that was recommended at the last meeting that we
Yeah,
had.
we put this one together in kind of a,
Do you not have a copy of that?
it's,
Surely I do.
it's in that packet that she
It's
gave
in
you
two
today.
places in the packet. It just says trailer parking in city. But I do think that part should be in there.
And the deal about,
You have another copy of that?
Yeah, sure do.
Thanks.
the deal about inhabiting the trailer was basically due to, if you had family in for a holiday or something and you had a travel trailer or fifth wheel or a Class A or something out there that you could actually have a place for some other people to sleep or whatever. And you could use it for only not to exceed 7 days in a 30-day period. So Christmas, Thanksgiving, holidays, whatever, if you had some family coming in, then they could use your travel trailer or your motor home or whatever to stay in for that period of time. while
So
they're
you
there.
like all this language?
Except for the trailer shall not be parked or stored for more than 48 hours unless it is located behind the front yard building line. If we change that to the
Yeah.
15 feet off of the curb,
A minimum of that?
yeah, a minimum of 15 feet off of the,
How could you put that in there, a minimum of 15 feet or not obstructing view or something? We'd have to figure out how to word that.
I mean, we could remove that sentence and put in whatever sentence would meet what we were discussing.
And I don't think we messed up here too. I don't think we have anything here about boat and boat trailers.
I think that's already in there.
In this other one?
It's in these are copies of the ordinances
Mhm.
that I gave you.
You're right.
And so you can flip through, and I think the reason why we didn't do much last time is because pretty much everything we were wanting to do was already somewheres in
Yeah,
the ordinances somewhere.
the main thing was staying in a travel trailer. That was what actually brought all of this
Yeah,
up.
that was the main part. Let's see. Like I said, that black bold is not part of our current.
Mhm.
So just make sure you disregard that.
How did we
It
word
tells
that?
us motor vehicle, so that would be any self-propelled, basically.
Mhm.
Then we have, let's see, there was something, let me find where, nuisances, that's disabled, storing parking. Right there, 4-6-3 covers some of that. Opportunity.
There was something about, why can't we use our driveway to park any of our trailers or vehicles that we want to? And
That's a pretty good question, I
Well,
think.
well, it is a good question, and the reason that came up with was because it's an obstruction of the view of, because some of those things are pretty long, and
And you also gotta look at it, if you're parking a flat trailer, the view's not obstructed. You can be parking a motor coach or whatever you wanna call it, and if you don't pull up far enough, you're not gonna see over, period.
Or around
You
it.
can't. And so that's, if they're 15 feet, so if we did it also in their, even in their driveway, they do need to be far enough off the road that they're not obstructing the sidewalk. for one. And the second thing is that somebody pulling out can see to get onto the highway. So even within their own driveway, I don't care if they park their stuff there, so long as they're not creating an unsafe.
Obstructing the view.
Right.
I mean, you could have a situation where you were only 5 feet back and you weren't obstructing the view.
If the back of your vehicle or front or whatever you're gonna call it has got 15 feet from the curb to the first time you can get to that vehicle or that trailer, then that would be fine. I think that's what we need to come up with is but God, you'd have to have a pretty long driveway.
But I
Would it-
mean,
would
you
it be a
drive down, yeah,
We
you
could
drive
put a
down
and
most
or.
of the residential streets, those driveways aren't over 25
Right.
feet long, right?
Mhm.
So if I've got a bass boat and I don't have any place to store it, why can't I keep it in my driveway with a cover on it if it's not obstructing anybody's view?
We could do an and or, 15 feet and or,
We-
no obstruction, because if they're the last house on the road, it doesn't matter if they're all the way up to the
You're,
curb.
I guess what we've got to come up with, and you know this better than I do, is there's always gonna be somebody that says, I don't care, my 40-foot travel trailer or my 40-foot, Class A is not obstructing anything, you know? And where do you draw the line and say this is an obstruction, or who's gonna go out there and say, yes, it's obstructing the view, or no, it's not? That's where we have to have
Your code enforcement or your police officers, I mean, if there's a complaint or if they notice something that does obstruct the view,
okay.
they take a picture and charge them with it, and they have the right to come in and defend against it, and somebody has to decide whether it really obstructs the view or not.
So it basically goes to a
It'd
court
go to
situation?
municipal court typically.
Okay.
It'd be a ticket.
All right, I guess we need to figure out how to word that.
Well, I would say this, the part where limiting usage and parking of commercial vehicles, recreation vehicles, trailers, mobile homes, I think any of this, the distance restriction, all of that everything needs to be, nothing should be on there. And to be honest, I believe it's set up somewhere in the code where I read it, that you can't block certain things already. It's in there, but it's not clear.
Regardless of what it is, whether it's
Right.
an RV or whether it's a
Yeah,
bass boat.
shed,
Yeah,
basketball. Well, what I have problems with is sometimes people, they put up these little temporary signs, even political signs. If it's small and you can see over it, fine, but sometimes you get these big things put in people's yards and you can't see. That's a safety issue. I mean, if they're far enough back off of the road, I don't care. It's just if it's blocking the view. So that one that we were looking at, that line, that sentence number 2, that I think we should remove that, somewheres in there, we would put, being set back 15 foot, or whatever, but also include any other motor vehicle, et cetera, or, not just a trailer, but motor vehicles. That way it would include the motor homes, or maybe people, I've seen some of these places where they've got this little old driveway, they've got 5 cars and it's hanging partly out to the street. Well, the 2 neighbors on either side, there's no way they can see up and down the road if a car's coming. Because their bumper's hanging this far out into the road.
And then you have things like storage pods.
Yeah, and you got storage pods or a shed. And so there shouldn't be anything within.
That obstructs view.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think you can put a distance on it. I think
Okay.
You just have to say obstruction of view.
All right. That would probably be every place is gonna be different. So as long as it's not obstructing the view and we need to probably put for safety purposes or something, because if somebody pulls a motor home at their house and their neighbor over here is looking out their kitchen window and they said, well, I can't see this down here now, so you're obstructing my view.
So that's the safety end of it.
Right.
The other end of it was there had been an issue with people like pulling a travel trailer where it wouldn't obstruct view, but parking a travel trailer on their property and then living in it.
Yeah, that's out. until
If we pass this.
they
that
have
would
a
be
permit for 7 days. That's in this part, that's in this, deal here. We have to add that in there.
And then the other thing is just storing things, and it was more of a concern for neighborhood appearance or whatever you want to call it. But,
Right.
I mean, what do you do with that?
That'd be a nuisance, wouldn't it?
Wait, say that again?
If it's a non-working vehicle, they can't store them anyway.
Right.
That's already covered in,
If it's a tagged vehicle and it's operational, then it can be stored.
I think if it's a
Yeah.
junk motor vehicle, they got like 10 days.
Yeah.
If it's parked on the street, after so many days, it's considered abandoned. That's already in here.
So maybe we just address the obstruction of view
Okay.
and the not living in trailers.
See, 4-6-3
Maybe we
story.
just address those things with the limited language that we've talked about.
Okay.
And then again, if something comes up later that creates a problem, we can always revisit that issue.
All right. And what we said was the living in the trailers were only for 7 days in a 30-day period. And then the mayor
By special
may
permission.
waive that if we have a declared state of emergency, a tornado or something like that comes through or whatever.
And that's why we had to enter that special permission. They need to have a permit, so we know when they actually started, so they can't, oh, well, they just got here yesterday and they've been there 10 days already.
The problem with that, and I've experienced this myself, my parents lived in Arizona and they motorhomed all the time.
Sure.
When they would come through Pryor, they would just park in our driveway and they'd
Yeah.
be there for a couple of nights, then they'd move on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to require people to get a permit for one night
Yeah.
or 2
I
nights.
think there's something here about 48 hours too, though, isn't there?
Trailers shall not be parked or stored for more than 48 hours, and that's the part where, you're talking about this?
No, there's another,
Oh, you're talking about within the code itself? Yeah, there is something, if it's parked on the road, on like the street, it's not supposed to be there for 2 days.
there was 24 hours or 48 hours.
Yeah, that is in, give me a second, I'll find it. It's, because I think I have a copy of it. The
Yeah,
4
it's in
pages.
it's in the one that we already have here.
You know, what we're trying to do is keep people from living there.
Yes, sir.
And so, I mean, I think if one is parked in a certain spot and people are living in it for a period of time, we're gonna find out about it. Either the police are
Yeah.
gonna notice it or a neighbor's gonna complain.
Right.
So I don't think we need to require a permit.
6-7-3B.
Yeah, you got it right here. 6-7-3 is time-limited parking. But that's for parking on any street for a period of time longer than 24 hours. That's not parking in your driveway.
Well, it says a vehicle, which would probably a motor vehicle. I wouldn't mind seeing that amended to also include trailers, because I know places where they're parking box trailers, and they've been there for months.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen.
Right, but if it's not a vehicle, because it's not a motor, does it fall under that 24 hours? Well, if you had that, where if it's vehicles and trailers,
Well, it says the parking of a vehicle for more than 48 hours shall be constitute prima facie. No, I'm not a lawyer, so excuse me on that one. Evidence of abandonment of the vehicle. And then it gave 1988 code 15-704.
but that's under the motor vehicle, so that wouldn't apply to a
Right,
trailer.
if it's a coach or motorhome like what they're
Yeah, that
talking
would
about,
be-
that was a
yeah.
motor vehicle, yeah.
But like, I can take you and show you a trailer right now that's been there for months. I don't think it's moved in months. It's just sitting right in the street. And it's kind of a pain, because if you pull up, it's near where I cut grass, and if I'm cutting close to that, then you've got that trailer that's always there, and then you're parking trying to, and the next thing you know, they got people squeezed through these little sections on the,
Yeah.
on the
I
road.
thought we had an ordinance that prohibited parking on the streets.
For more than 24 hours.
It is for motor vehicles, but I don't know if it is.
Yeah,
for
it's trailers for more than 24 hours too.
Where is it though?
Uh,
I don't remember seeing it.
But the reason we did that was because just like you have your trailer and your equipment's on the back of it, then you can keep it in there for 24 hours.
So no obstruction of view, no living in trailers.
And what we talked about here was, when you're talking about living in trailer, was, I don't know that there would be a fee for it, but it was just a permit to say, that you got 7 days from this time where you started this permit.
We just set a 7-day limit on it.
Yeah,
Don't make people get a permit when they're just traveling through town.
okay,
See
okay,
family,
okay,
but if somebody's gonna have to remodel their home and they need to live in a trailer for a while, they could come get a permit. What do you think?
well, I don't know how long, see, that's right, that's really what started all this, was there was a family that was redoing a home, and they brought their trailer out there, and they set it up, and they were living in their trailer for an extended period of time, and that's what got all the complaints, and so, the officers came down and said, what are we gonna do about this? They're living in a trailer. It says that if you live in a trailer, you have to put it in a mobile home park, and so, I mean, that's what it says, but we had decided to put a 7-day limit on it. And so I don't know how you would say your time started here and you've been, over 7 days or whatever.
Without permitting, without
Without
having something
permitting.
on. You don't have,
Exactly.
and like you were saying a while ago, you don't have to charge for it, but at least that way it could be tracked.
Right.
I don't think you're gonna nail it to 7 days, but if
Yeah.
somebody's had one in there for 10 days and
Right.
there's a complaint or
Right.
something, well, then the officers go look at it, they see it's there.
Yeah,
They come back 10 days later, if it's still there, well, then they give them a ticket,
Okay,
you know?
okay. But like you say, if there's nobody complaining about it, then we wouldn't know anything about it anyway. It's not, not hurting anybody or whatever, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, should we worry about it if nobody else is
Well,
worried about it next door?
That's what I'm wondering about. We're gonna have to rely on your expertise on that one, because you know more about how that would work than,
So which parts of this section that's in here are you thinking should be stricken, and
Which one are you looking at now?
The trailer parking, the
This-
city, that
okay.
whole, we would have to take off the,
That second sentence that you talked about,
mhm,
the 48 hours.
probably the part where it says special permission granted by city. Because that's where that's the permitting process. Is that also something you feel would need to be stricken? I know we may have to reword it, I'm just saying though. What about that last sentence?
What if it was, so where it says except in a mobile home park, if we started right there and said, except in a mobile home park authorized under the ordinance of the city or by special permission granted by the city in the event that it exceeds 7 days.
okay,
Okay, I would
okay.
be okay with that. I
And
do-
we don't have to have the 30-day period, do we?
Right, and then I do want to keep that mayor as designee section in there in case there's an emergency, because I don't want to have to come back and redo it on the fly when I wouldn't have that authority.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that last sentence,
Yeah, I think we ought to make that,
trailers or recreational vehicles, not just trailers, but recreational vehicles also are prohibited from blocking.
trailers, RVs, storage pods,
Yeah, boats.
use some real broad language.
So you would fluff that up to include everything.
Mhm.
Okay. Are you gonna write this up then for us?
Yeah,
Okay, that sounds good.
That's why I was trying to specify what we're looking at.
so use broad language on that. I mean, if we do that, do we need to do anything more?
I think that's
I wouldn't
about
think
it.
so.
Mhm. I think that would be about
Because I
it.
really think everything else is already covered in places, and I don't really see it as necessary having it 47 times.
My gosh, at one time, they wanted to make sure that you had a concrete pad board that you parked your trailer on. I thought, my gosh, people aren't gonna be able to afford that, to do that.
Or a roofed structure?
Yeah, that was part of it too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We were going a little bit crazy about
Well,
that.
that last one, that four walls and a roof.
All right, so I guess I'll need to go back through these other ones that you've identified and make sure that it all works together.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
give you those,
Yeah.
I gave you the, just for ease of reference.
All right,
That's why I pulled them that time, the last time we went through it.
okay.
Think we're good on that then, everybody?
So, I guess we would, do we need to amend the motion?
I say, how would we,
Just,
I make a motion, we withdraw the one that's on the table, right now, and then we'll have to do something else. Then we can make a motion that we would give you
Do that.
instructions to draft.
yeah, do that.
okay,
So I amend my motion that we withdraw what's currently on there, and that
Second.
we would instruct the city attorney to draft an
appropriate
ordinance
changes.
with the changes discussed today.
I'll second it. Okay. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Gantier,
Yes?
Shropshire,
Yes.
And then we would probably have to have another meeting once he gets that one.
Yeah, but we won't be able to schedule until we get everything
Right.
tied together.
But the
Is
other-
there, has there been any discussion about when the group that's working on signs is gonna be able to give something to
I
us to
think
work with?
they're wanting to do something, I mean, I think they were supposed to have their last ad hoc meeting yesterday. So I know that they were shooting for us to have something in October, to put something on the ordinance insurance meeting in October. So if we could,
So it'd be good maybe to set a meeting in
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
Where we could
Okay.
address that and then all of this stuff at the same time.
yeah,
Sounds good. We,
Can we?
let's set it up a little further in October, because that way we'll know where everybody's at, and what we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I've got a trial. Let
Great.
me look here real quick.
We'll have to know what they come up with too, and they may need a little more time.
So items number 4 and 5 will be addressed at that meeting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And item 3, that recommendation will go to the
Yeah.
next council meeting.
It's going to the council meeting.
I've got a trial the week of October the 17th down in McCurtain County that I'll be down
17th
there all
through what?
week.
Okay.
21st?
Yeah, it'll take that whole week.
could we do the 27th?
I don't have a problem with it, I don't know.
What day of the week is it?
That's a Thursday.
I don't know of
I
anything.
can't do it on the 27th.
You can't do it on the 27th, okay?
I've got a doctor's visit that morning that's gonna drug me up and
Oh,
Ooh, fun
okay,
stuff.
Well,
yeah.
the question is, will there be a different, I'm just kidding.
We could do it on Halloween, that
Oh,
following Monday.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I probably ought to pass on that one.
looks like we need to do it in November.
Okay.
First part of November.
That's kind of the trouble. We're all got things going on everywhere, and it's hard to pull one out of here.
Well, and then trying to find a date that doesn't already have a meeting on it is
Yeah,
tough too.
exactly.
Are Thursday nights the best time to do it?
It seems like it. It seems like we always end up coming on right after the nuisance court thing.
The 4th, November the 4th would
That's a-
work.
I'm not a
Friday.
huge, I'm not a huge fan of the
So
third
what?
Thursdays.
November the 4th is a Friday.
Oh, sorry.
The 3rd would be a P and Z meeting if they have one.
Would be
They
what?
don't, planning and zoning. They're scheduled to have their meeting the first Thursday of the month.
Okay.
But if they don't have a big agenda, I mean, we could do it like we did tonight and just do it after.
That'd be fine. So you want to call it November the 3rd?
Want to do that?
We can tentatively do it.
November 3rd is that a Thursday?
It's a Thursday.
Uh-huh.
Did you say Thursdays are hard for you?
I don't like the third Thursdays because it's when the Republican GOP meeting is.
Well, this will be the first Thursday of November, if that
First one's
works.
not an issue.
Okay,
Okay. All right.
let's shoot for that.
November the 3rd, and the last one is, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, call for a vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Gantier.
Goodbye.
We need John.